Alrighty, it is 3 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get this meeting started. Thank you all for being here, both in my commissioners and in the audience. I know it's summer break time for a lot of people. We will start with a determination of a quorum.
We currently have 4 members present. We lack 1 for a quorum. We can go ahead and get started, take reports, see if somebody else shows up. We do have a taxi appeal, which we will require a quorum for that if we're going to proceed. So let's, Ms. White, our appellant, if you'll stand by, we might get another member to show up.
Okay, great. Thank you. We will start with the reports.
There we go.
Oh, hey, there we go. Quorum achieved. Quorum achieved. So we'll start with reports. So my report, I don't have anything this month just because, again, kind of summer break time. My other commissioners, you will have seen in an email my monthly Ride the Routes. I've kind of postponed summer break time just due to other personal commitments, but I'm hoping to bring that back in August. So if you have any ideas of a route that you would like to ride in August, let me know. I'm hoping to invite the media, as always, invite the public, just so we can experience another route. And again, going forward, the goal is to have that at least once a month after our ride. Maybe if there's a desire to do it more times a month as we go forward, we can. But for the summer, just enjoy your summer, and we'll get back to that later on. Do any commissioners have any comments?
Just want to reflect on the Ride the Route last month. It was interesting just to see some of the more nuances. So the bus routes I've ridden are like MLK and things like that, but the route I've never had to ride before. So seeing how some of the stops are literally in what appears to be people's front yards and on these lovely slopes and things like that, but seeing it in those areas is incredibly helpful. So thank you for that idea. And I think it helps us to inform the decisions that we make differently.
Any other comments? All right, great. We will move on to staff. Oh, I'm so sorry. I totally skipped over that. Yes, we need to approve the May minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed. Thank you. All right, staff reports.
Just a couple of updates. First of all, I want to introduce Suzanne Rimmer. She has joined our staff as a Deputy Director of Transit. Susan is no stranger to the city of Knoxville. She's worked for Knoxville EMA for 3 years, and then she worked for the University of Tennessee for over 20 years. 30, sorry. So Suzanne is, this is her 5th week? This is your 5th week?
5th week.
Yeah, so happy to have Suzanne on board with us. She's doing a great job. The other update is in regards to Title VI. I had planned on having that at this meeting, but it didn't happen. So I'm getting with UMAR tomorrow, and I'll be sending this out to the board for the July meeting. And I want to give you plenty of time to review that. I am going to include reference to any changes we made. That way it makes everyone's job much easier reviewing that. And we'll have a vote at our July meeting. And then the last item is a Route 12 modification. All the board members should have this in front of you. We've been running Route 12 Western Avenue on a long-term detour. We are giving this to the board this month as information. We will be bringing back a recommendation to make this long-term detour permanent. And I'll have UMAR talk about the changes and what we've been doing for the last few months.
Thanks, Isaac, and good afternoon, everyone. The Route 12 Western was put on a long-term detour back in March 2026 to address safety concerns along 17th Street and improve service to Summit Towers. Under the revised alignment, Route 12 operates from Knoxville Station via Hall of Fame, Summit Hill Drive, and Western Avenue before resuming its regular routing at Middlebrook in both directions. The change responds to customer requests along Summit Hill Drive for more direct access to nearby shopping destinations and have requested that the current detour be made permanent. And that's something that we will put out for public comment over the next 30 days and hope that we could come back in July for a vote. It initially began when we had the reduction of service of the 12 and the 20. We had interlined them. And Customer feedback was great on both of those buses being in a line and leaving at the same time from Knoxville Station. It also created an operations issue because for a stretch of the route, the 12 and the 15 were following each other along Cumberland, so it made sense to separate those two routes since they're on the same time. So we also have some additional stop requests. The TVA Towers in Crown Plaza, which is served by the Route 1 right now, as well as Summit Towers, 11th Street at Western, possibly Jedrick, and the medical building, and also a request to place a stop at Matlock at Ball Camp to service Helen Ross McNabb and the Fast Pace Center out there. But as you can see, the map just outlines how the new routing is currently operating as a long-term detour compared to the old routing that went down Cumberland. And we still serving Cumberland with the Route 15, the 11, and the 42 serves a small portion of Cumberland up to 16th and 17th as well. So plenty of coverage still on Cumberland. Some of, just one more quick thing, some of the comments that we had received when we first made this detour. At the time, we were still on reduced service on the Route 15, and there were some connections people were trying to make from the 12 to get over to Cumberland and UT campus, but that has since been resolved since we brought back 30-minute service on the 15, it's 30-minute service on the 12, and just today I witnessed both buses pulling up at the bus stop at the same time to make a seamless transfer, outbound and inbound. That's all I have. Thanks. Yes.
Does any other route serve 17th Street and go through the fort other than the hospital route?
The 15.
The 15?
Yes.
Refresh my memory on the 15.
The 15 is the 15 Woodland. Crosstown.
Got it.
Yeah, it comes up Cumberland, makes a right on 17th, and heads down to Western Avenue to Food City, and then back to Western Avenue. Well, no, back to Western Avenue, then it makes a right turn on the Keith Avenue through Western Heights over to Fulton, all the way out Valley View, all the way to Easttown Walmart, and then back in the same way.
Okay,
And it also provides 30-minute service.
It also provides, 30-minute service.
What were the safety concerns for 17th Street?
We still have one more to address with the Route 15. It's a tight turn during school hours. The students walking in front of the bus, not paying attention. So it's always been a concern that the operators have brought to our attention. So we were able to remove one with removing the Route 12, but it's still a concern that we are trying to find a solution to.
I think there's also parking on both sides,
And,
too.
yeah.
not on 17.
Not on 17?
No,
But
17th is open.
17th is open and Cumberland is open, but it's just a mass number of students, and it's a sort of tight turn going outbound more so than inbound.
Right.
But go ahead.
The students and the Fort Sanders community are also a constituency that you all serve.
We do.
So I would be opposed to reducing it any further.
Okay. The only other option we would have is to turn up 16th to Highland and still serve that area, definitely, but we just wouldn't be using 17th. That's the only other proposal that we've been looking at.
UT's transit buses go up 17th without a problem.
Right.
So I'm not sure where your operators are having a problem.
To give some more clarity on the background, so it's not necessarily navigating the turn as much as it is just the pedestrian traffic, especially during class changes or events in the evenings. Because I was a student there, I know how it was. Like if I saw enough braking traffic, I may not wait for the signal to walk, and so you dart out, and they don't really realize that a bus can't stop as quickly as a car. And I think it's more out of an abundance of caution that we're getting the concern, because I don't think there's been an actual incident, but we know
the severity of an accident, it's not going to be a near miss. It's probably going to be pretty significant if there is a actual contact made. So,
Well, I think that Cumberland is not something that you can avoid, so it falls back to a training issue for the operators.
yes,
does.
and honestly, if we are unable to get away from the Cumberland 17th intersection, I would definitely lobby for us as far as CAT, City of Knoxville, UT, make a pedestrian awareness campaign to make them aware of, yes, we are doing our part, we're making our drivers aware, but also to adhere to the signage and rules of the road, because like I said, it's not just our buses. I've seen near misses with cars. Some operators are young drivers. They haven't really dealt with a high pedestrian corridor before. They're there for school and they turn through people walking. I mean, it's a nervous intersection for anyone to observe. So, like I said, I'm with you. I think we should be addressing the operators, drivers, and pedestrians to try to alleviate any kind of major catastrophe there.
I agree. Something that we have explored at UT is we've requested the city, because those are all city lights on Cumberland, look into a pedestrian-only phase as part of the red light cycle. And maybe if CAT gets behind that, it might help.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So my understanding with this Route 12 change is potentially avoiding 17th Street. Is there thoughts of also doing that for the 15th, or as of right now, there are no thoughts
There
of
are
doing
no
that?
thoughts right now. No.
Okay. So you're not considering a future where there's no bus on the 17th. You're just trying to remove one bus from 17th Street.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
And one other, I don't know that this is a question, just more as an observation. It sounds like we're trying to solve for a couple of different things, both the safety concern, but also serving Summit Towers, which if we do keep it on 17th or 16th or any of the other ones through the fort, we're not answering that need, but also, Rick is right. The UT students are part of our constituency. So is there any sense of, if we make it more difficult for UT students, that is there a trade-off in ridership, I think is what I'm getting at. Like, we think we're going to pick up some riders and lose riders, or we just don't know, and we'd have to find out.
So in the period that we've had it on Detour, we haven't necessarily lost ridership because they're still able to make the transfer over at the Food City before the 12 passes the 15. And since the 15 is still going through the old route, they're still able to get the same coverage. It's just more so, especially before the 15 went back to 30-minute service, there was a gap in time, so they were having to wait, and that was an inconvenience, and that was what we were getting in emails saying, hey, I either almost missed my connection or I had to wait longer because of missing the bus as it pulled off. That's been addressed more so since we've gone to 30-minute service. There's a possibility of picking up some extra ridership at 11th and Western Avenue on the backside of the fort, which has not been served since, I know, for at least the last 6+ years, since we may have had a route that came through that side of the fort. So we would have access to the Children's Museum and all the attractions over there on the backside of the fort, that you wouldn't have to walk up from, was that 11th? 11th
Yeah, that's
intersection?
11th, yeah.
Does that require a Title VI analysis? Like, does this count as a major route change?
No, it
Because that
doesn't.
might be able to address
No, it does
that
not.
question.
No.
And
Well, and in a way, if it's hitting 11th, you are still servicing at least the back. I mean,
Side
there
of the
are
fort.
resident UT students who live, I used to live there when I was a UT student back in that corner. I don't want to discount Rick's concern, though. I just want to make sure we're balancing serving who needs access to and getting it at the right spot.
No, we definitely do hear his concern, and there are no plans to take any other routes off of 17th. We're just speaking hypothetically in terms of the safety issue, but again, there are other issues with giving those that senior center direct access to a shopping center, and just so we sort of split it between them and UT and other downtown residents as well that can easily access that 12 and get over to shopping, because at the time, right now, currently, without the 12 using Western Avenue, they only had the option of the Route 1, which really just circles as a downtown circulator more so than to a Walmart or a Food City.
I do want to speak in favor of these additional stops that have been requested. So I will always speak from the perspective of people seeking any type of medical or behavioral health care. And at least 2 of these locations are directly in front of either a medical facility or a behavioral health facility. Mm-hmm. And that is a significant barrier in trying to get people access to care. So the Dedrick stop will put them directly in front of a walk-in clinic, and the ball camp at Matlock will give them direct access to an inpatient facility for behavioral health services. So I do want to uplift that while also acknowledging that pedestrian traffic is a hot mess. There's no other way to say it, particularly on UT's campus. And I have to applaud the drivers. I don't think it's a driver error, right? I think this is, like you said, an abundance of caution that there's so many people. Something has to be done before something really bad happens. And it's not a matter of taking service away. It's how can we make this as safe and efficient and accessible as possible, while also recognizing that these additional requests, if approved, are going to expand access to people who need it most. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
I just want to point out / make sure I'm understanding this right, that if you look at and tell me if I'm misunderstanding this, but if you look at the ridership charts for the 12 in our packet, this was started in March of this year. So before that was the old route. And if you look comparing April and May of 2025 to this year, even with the changes, ridership is pretty much the same. I mean, in April, there's actually more riders. So for me, again, not to discount anybody's concerns about anything, but for me, that shows that like this isn't impacting too many people negatively, and that similar to what they were saying, that I would be very concerned if we were taking away all service right on those roads. But the fact that there's at least one other bus, and you said that the 15, that's a half-hour service, or that's an hour? Yeah, so it's the same level of service they're getting. So that, to me, that it seems like there are definitely some issues that could be worked out, but that those issues are maybe beyond the realm of just CAT. Like you said, it's CAT supporting, signal prioritization and stuff like that. But I just I noticed that and wanted to point that out for the other commissioners when we're considering this, that it doesn't look like by changing this route, it dropped 1,000 people or anything. The one thing I did want to ask is, do we know why from July to October of last year it jumped by like 2,000 people on this route? Is that just an average, like maybe students coming back in the fall kind of a thing?
Could be, yeah.
Okay. But anyway, that was just my 2 cents, is to point out that if you compare year to year with the change, it seems to be the same ridership. So that gives me comfort to want to support it.
Yeah, and I will say too, this is today just informational. We will bring back a recommendation with further data analysis in terms of ridership. I know Rick and I and my staff, we have the daily ridership or monthly ridership for each route, which UT students are riding, 11. I know predominantly it's 11 and 17. I know 12 and 15 are in there, but we can also take a deep dive in that too and put that information in our recommendation back to the board next month.
And
we'll also have a Title VI analysis too to show no major change.
Okay, can you all remind us that for something like this, since we'll be kind of looking at it and voting on it next month, you said the next month it'll enter kind of a public input phase. Mm-hmm. Is that something that, if I remember correct, we just put on the CAT website, and it's kind of like a top banner saying proposed change to the route?
Yeah, we also promote that at our Knoxville station as well on all of our signage.
And through this whole process, we've also promoted it at those stops, at the previous 12 stops through QR codes, and have gotten a few responses that way.
Any other comments on this issue? Okay, awesome. Good conversation. Thank you, commissioners. Let's see, what is next?
was-
Is that
yeah,
all for staff? No, we do, yeah, we
I was
have
going to have
TPO.
Doug talk about the what's next Knoxville update, because I know Chairman asked for that. I'm not sure. I didn't hear from Doug, so we will bring it back for next month. Doug is heavily involved, the TPO is heavily involved in what's next Knoxville. He can provide that information.
All right, look forward to that in July. So is that all from staff?
Yes.
Okay, great. We will move on to new business, and I will let Attorney Lawhorn start this section out.
All right, next on your agenda is the appeal from a denial of a permit to operate a taxi cab by Ms. Amanda White. We have Ms. White present today, and we have Officer Leslie Presley of the Knoxville Police Department, who runs the taxi inspection unit. Ladies, if you both come down, and I'll start first with Officer Presley. But let me give a little summary, and I understand, so I emailed attorney-client privilege communication to everyone, apparently except Commissioner Miller, and I think I know what happened there.
I think I know what happened too. I'll make sure everyone has my correct email after this.
All right. I hope everyone received that, but I will go through that very briefly. On April 28 of this year, the taxi cab inspector denied the application of Ms. White for a permit to operate a taxi cab. The grounds provided by the taxi cab inspector for that denial were twofold. First, that she had a conviction of a misdemeanor theft of property, charge $1,000 or less, after pleading guilty on November 7, 2024 in Knox County. The second ground was a misdemeanor conviction for possession of unlawful drug paraphernalia, the conviction being dated October 9, 2025 in Knox County. Knoxville City Ordinance 26114C sets out the standards to be applied by the taxi cab inspector in reviewing applications for driver's permits to operate a taxi cab. Subsection 10 of that ordinance states that the inspector may consider as a disqualifying factor a misdemeanor conviction of any drug or drug-related charge within the past 3 years. In respect to Ms. White, her conviction for misdemeanor possession of unlawful drug paraphernalia occurred less than 2 years ago. With respect to the misdemeanor theft of property conviction, subsection 8 of 26114C provides that the inspector may consider as grounds for disqualification conviction of any offense involving moral turpitude within the past 3 years. Ms. White's conviction for misdemeanor theft was dated approximately 9 months ago, so we're not quite a year into that. I usually get the question, what is moral turpitude? So let me address that in anticipation of that question coming. Tennessee courts define moral turpitude as, quote, an act of baseness, vileness, or depravity in the private and social duties which a man owes to his fellow men or to society in general, contrary to the accepted rule or right and duty between man and man. And that is a citation from a Tennessee Court of Appeals decision in 2001. I can tell you that many years ago, Tennessee courts determined that, and I'll quote this, theft, whether such as a felony or misdemeanor, is an act involving moral turpitude. So your job today is to hear from Ms. White, and she will provide you grounds for why you should consider granting her appeal, setting aside the denial of her application by the taxi cab inspector. I'll remind you that you have discretion in doing that in your role. The last paragraph of 26114 of the city ordinances states that the intent of the 11 articulated standards for denial are not exclusive, and the KTA commissioners have the discretion to consider additional aggravating or mitigating circumstances to grant or deny an appeal. Now, there is one other matter that, and I will explore this, I will ask some questions of both the taxi cab Inspections Unit and Ms. White. But there is a question dealing with whether the timeliness of the appeal. Under the same ordinance, it's 114B, provides that upon receipt of notice that an application has been denied and the reasons in writing for denial, the applicant may file an appeal with the Commissioners of the Knoxville Transportation Authority within 10 days of the date of such notice. The question you'll need to decide is whether Ms. White's appeal was made outside this time period. The facts that can be discerned from the notices sent and from the other matters that were forwarded to me indicate as follows. The written notice of denial was dated April 28, 2026. Ms. White's appeal form is dated May 27, 2026, or 29 days from the date of the notice letter. Ms. White's, her notice of appeal form indicates that her address is 902 Farragut Avenue. The notice sent to her was addressed 907 Farragut Avenue. So it's apparent that the written notice was misdirected. The taxi cab inspector will state that actual receipt of the appeal in her office did not occur till June 3, 2026, or 36 days from the date of the notice letter. You may consider, as part of your determination in granting or denying the appeal, whether the appeal was timely filed within the 10-day period based upon the receipt of notice. All right? So any questions of the process before I ask? Okay, let me start with Officer Presley.
Oh, John, sorry,
Yes.
just as a point of clarification, the question about whether the notice was received correct at the correct address at the correct time is just a factor to what we are considering. We are considering the actual appeal of the application.
You can do it however you want. So,
Great.
so I would suggest you consider everything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that's the simplest way to do this, and hear everything, and then make your decision. You could say, well, we want to hear the timeliness issue first, and if we decide it wasn't timely, we're done. But my suggestion would be, for simplicity, just hear it all and go forward.
And is it appropriate for us to follow both of them with questions?
You may. So what I typically do is I will ask both the presenting officer and the appellant some questions, and then I'll turn it over and let you all ask whatever you wish.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So Officer Leslie Presley, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I understand this is your first time appearing
It
before
is.
the KTA. Well,
It is.
congratulations. I'd like to give your office an opportunity to add anything at the beginning of this. I try
Sure.
to present as much as possible based on the information that your office has provided. So if there's anything you need to add, please
Yes,
do.
there was a portion of the background that was missing. So on the date of the plea of the drug paraphernalia plea there on 10/9/25, there was also a simple possession casual exchange plea on that day that went along with that. So that would be a misdemeanor casual exchange plea on that date.
All right. And that would fall under the same subsection 10 disqualifying factor, misdemeanor conviction of any drug or drug-related charge.
Yes, that would be a
Okay.
misdemeanor drug charge.
All right. Let me ask you just briefly a little bit about the notice question that I outlined.
Yes, sir.
So it looks like your office sent a written notice of denial on April 28, 2026. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it looks like that letter was addressed or sent to 907 Farragut Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917.
Yes, sir. We sent that based on the address that was actually on the application that she submitted. I've got a copy of the application here if anybody would like to see the front page. It appears to say 907 Farragut Lane actually on it is what was listed.
And I will, would you agree with me, the characterization that the handwriting is not good?
Correct. Actually, her last name here, I couldn't read her last name. I actually ended up writing in her last name. Then you get down to the line of the street. It looks more clear. It appears to say 907, so we assume that was the correct address for the house, and that is where I had it sent.
In my review of that, I could see where the two in what what she had submitted was could be misinterpreted as a couple of different numbers, 7 being one of them, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when did you first hear from Ms. White in any way, written, verbal, after April 28th?
I heard from her on the telephone. So when I have a denial, I go ahead and let the potential employer know that this person that they are hiring is not able to get a city driver's permit, so they know not to put them on the road. I to her potential employer. I do not tell them why they are denied. I just tell them that they are not able to obtain a driver's permit through the city. Then they can talk to that person if they wish. Apparently, he did talk to her because she called me within 24 hours of me sending that email. So that was pretty quick. The letter would not have had time to reach her yet. I had just sent the letter out the day that I emailed him. So I heard from her probably on the 28th or so. She called me. She was upset that she had been denied. She did not understand why. I explained to her about the rules and why she had been denied. She did not really accept that. I told her there would be a letter coming that would have the appeal process paperwork in it to file. That was the last time I talked to her. This did come back from the post office, but it was a long time before it came back. It was not within that 10-day period. We did not hear back from the post office, gosh. It's stamped here as 5/3, but it was significantly after that, I feel like, when it made it back to our building and we found out that it had not arrived. It was a very long time. She called my office later and asked about coming by and picking it up in person. I told her she could come pick it up in person. So she picked it up actually on May 27th is the date that she came and picked it up in person and actually received it.
Okay. So just to clarify, if I understand correctly, you believe you heard from Ms. White either on April 28 or the day after?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you did receive a return of the original letter indicating it was undeliverable?
I did receive the return. It was several weeks after it had been mailed out that we got the return back.
So the date your office received the actual written appeal, I believe you said was May 27?
May 27th is the day that she came and picked it up from my office. I'm not sure the date that the post office actually brought it back. I don't have a way of knowing that.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about the date she picked up the
day she
letter.
picked it up was May 27th. Yes,
Okay.
I did notate that.
Okay. And what was the date of the appeal?
The date on the appeal paperwork?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see here. She has dated at the top 5/27, and then looks like she dated at 5/27. I know it was not brought back to our office that very same day she picked it up. It was probably a day or two later. It was within a couple of days.
All right. So if we were measuring 10 days from the date she picked up the written notice, her appeal would have been filed within 10 days from that?
Yes, it was within 10 days of that.
All right. Do the commissioners have any questions?
I have a question. When you initially presented this to us, there was 2 misdemeanors, but you're saying that there was 3?
Well, there is a misdemeanor simple possession charge, which would be your drug charge, and then there is a theft charge, which is the moral turpitude charge. I did not actually include the drug paraphernalia charge that he's speaking of. It was part of the simple possession. They were all in one case, so I didn't really include that as a separate. But technically, yes, that is a separate charge.
And is there a specific reason that they were not all included, or I guess you kind of just answered that. So yeah.
2 of those were part of one incident.
Fair enough.
That is just why we spoke at it, and they violate the same rule in this. When you're looking at the reason for denial, 2 of those were under the same rule.
And let me clarify, the actual reasons for denial, in my letter that I sent, I did not mention the simple possession. That was mentioned as the basis for denial, the simple possession charge, not the possession of drug paraphernalia. So that's my error.
Understood. Thank you.
You said we can ask any questions. Okay. Just because I'm curious, I'm new at this. I'm curious, what is the kind of legal definition, or what is your standard for what is considered drug paraphernalia? And kind of a follow-up to that is what, if we're allowed to know, like, what was it possession of? Are we talking weed? Are we talking cocaine? Like, what level of drug?
That you would have to ask her. I can't tell that by looking at her background. I don't know what those items were. I wouldn't actually see that, so she would have to answer that.
Okay.
Drug paraphernalia would be any kind of equipment that you used with drugs. It could be anything from drug pipes. It could be rolling papers. You know, there's a lot of things that it could be.
Okay.
So she would have to be better to answer what it was in relation to this actual incident.
And is that the same for the details behind the misdemeanor theft? Like, we would have to ask her?
Yes, that was a plea related to another charge that she made an agreement with, so she would need to talk more about that.
Okay, thank you.
To your knowledge, has, I believe it's Miss White, held a taxi permit or driver's permit in the city of Knoxville before this month?
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you.
Officer Presley, just to kind of cover briefly, we have a lot of new members on the KTA right now. And
Yes, sir.
so we've gone into this in the past, but explain how the taxi inspection unit approaches these. Does your office exercise discretion when there is a disqualifying criminal charge to deny or not count that and go ahead and grant the application? Or does your office generally, if there's a disqualifying factor, just go ahead and disqualify them?
We generally just go ahead and disqualify them. If there is a reason to disqualify them, we disqualify them, and if they were to appeal, we would let them appeal to you all for that decision.
Any further questions?
John, can you remind all of us, in this process, if as an example, we come to the conclusion to deny the appeal, what is the course of action after? I believe in the past, when we had that appeal that ended up not coming through to us a few months ago, you had said that, essentially at any point in the future, someone can, reapply to, get a taxi cab license. There's not necessarily like a time limit on when they can do that. Is that correct?
So the procedure is a person can start the process all over again anytime they desire. So theoretically, if you were to deny this appeal today, Ms. White could go tomorrow, apply for another permit. It may or may not be granted. If it's denied, she could be back here at the next KTA meeting. And the purpose of that is it's sometimes people may come back, in a year, and they may not be past the 3-year time period on a conviction, but they may have new evidence to convince you, hey, okay, this person has done what we wanted to see. So this is not a final appeal for all time. They can keep renewing the process whenever they want.
as you mentioned, some of us are newish. Will this process end in us all five needing to be unanimous, or will it be a vote and majority would be the case?
Just needs to be a majority vote. And just to explain the process, so there would have to be a motion to grant the appeal. If there's no second to that motion, well, if there's no motion, the appeal is denied. If there is no second to the motion, the appeal is denied. If you go to a vote, if it's not a majority vote, the appeal is denied.
Thank you.
This may be a very stupid question, but what is the difference in someone, and I don't know if this is a question for you or for you, John, what is the difference in holding an application, a token, I guess they would call it, like in New York City, for operating a taxi cab here versus just being like an Uber or a Lyft driver, because they essentially function the same, but we don't regulate Uber and Lyft, to my knowledge. So, like, what does this, if we grant this appeal, like, what does that actually empower Ms. White to do, and how does that differ from Uber and Lyft?
Well, you cannot operate a taxi cab in the city of Knoxville without a city permit to do so. That is not, and I'm not familiar with the process for Uber and Lyft, but it does not involve a taxi permit. You do not have to have that for Uber and Lyft. So
Dustin, I'd imagine it's higher pay and the benefit of working for an actual taxi company, if they have any benefits that go along, regular hours,
well,
et
and a lot of
cetera.
it's just historical. So for years, in the days when taxis were used much more often for personal transportation, you wanted to kind of limit the number of vehicles out there so people could make a living and not have a lot of people competing. That's changed. Taxis probably deliver more parcels these days than people. But the state now stepped in to regulate rideshare. So municipalities were trying to get involved in that, and the state legislature stepped in and said, no, we're going to regulate that ourselves. So but why don't we deal with the appeal, and then we can address any of those questions, more informational questions later. Any other questions for Officer Presley? Thank you, Officer Presley. If you would hang around just a little bit in case something else comes up. All right, Ms. White, we're ready to hear from you. Let me give you a little background, and you certainly can address anything I said. If I misstated anything, please correct me. But this is your opportunity to present the basis for your appeal to these commissioners. You may call on any individuals to provide testimony if you'd like. You may submit documents if you like. So we'll let you proceed.
Okay. First off, on the theft charge, I was actually arrested. I bought a motorcycle that had a stolen tag on it. So that's what I was charged with theft for. And the civil possession, it was, I was arrested with somebody. They found straws in the car, and he had drugs on him, and they arrested both of us. But with that charge, I ended up going to rehab, which I have a certificate. And I completed it. I went to drug court. I went to halfway house. I did IOP. And I'm just starting my community service with MDC. And I have a letter of recommendation from a boss and all that. I mean, that's about it.
So, Ms. White, we will pass those around. Give us all a little time to look at them. While they're doing that, do you acknowledge that the misdemeanor convictions that I outlined that were correct, and the dates of conviction were correct? The misdemeanor theft, the plea on November 7, 2024, and the possession on misdemeanor possession on October 9, 2025. Were those the dates of the guilty? They were guilty pleas, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I pleaded guilty to them. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to let these folks, while they're looking at that, let me ask you a couple of other questions. When did you first learn of the denial?
It was in April, because I was waiting on the letter, and the letter never came. My boss called me, like she said, and he told me it was denied. It was the same day I did my fingerprints, which I think it was around the 27th or 28th.
Okay. So if the denial was made on April 28, it would have been within 24, 48 hours that you at least heard of the denial?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now, is there anything else you'd like, I'm gonna let everybody look at these, but is there anything else you would like to say or why they should consider granting your appeal?
No, I just, I really like my job. I mean, it's hard to find a good job. I'm trying to put the past behind me and move on. It's just hard to do that with, it's silly stuff in my background. It seems really big, but I mean, to me, it's,
When did you complete your treatment program? Was that inpatient?
yes.
Well, when was that?
It was, I finished it in September or October.
Of 2025?
No, this past year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. Can you please repeat that date?
I think it says October 10th.
Successful completion of residential IOP October 1st, 2025. Intake date September 3rd, 2025 at Buffalo Valley.
How long what was the length of that program?
30 days.
It looks to be 30 days from intake to completion.
Okay. So you said with the theft charge, you bought a motorcycle and it had stolen tags.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't steal the motorcycle.
No,
you
I didn't.
bought it.
Yes, I
and
did.
it had stolen tags.
Yeah.
And you said for the simple possession, basically you were in a car with a friend or with somebody, and you got pulled over for whatever reason. Did they have just paraphernalia, or did they have actual drugs in the car?
They had drugs on them, and they found straws in the car.
May I ask what were the drugs?
I'm not for sure.
Okay, so did you have any awareness that they had any of this in the car?
No.
Okay. And those are technically the only two convictions, correct? Is the theft and that? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. What is, kind of following up on a question I had earlier, what is the, for you, difference in being able to get a certificate to operate a taxi versus just, doing Uber or Lyft? Is it just that you can make a lot more money? Sorry, I'm very ignorant on this issue.
It is, Uber and Lyft is a ride share. Working with a taxi cab, I make half commission. It's a lot different. Like, I do medical runs and stuff. That's mainly what I do right now. With a taxi service, it's not really taxi service. He does a shuttle service that goes to the airport and back. So even though it's a taxi permit, it's not actually driving for a taxi. You just shuttle people from the hotels to the airport. But
Okay.
you need a taxi cab permit to operate it.
Okay, is that what you've done mainly in the past? Is that kind of shuttling to and from the airport?
Yeah, that's what I was doing, yeah.
Okay. And is it in the conviction you had with the friend getting pulled over, you say you didn't, know they had anything in the car, but you also yourself have, gone through rehab. If I may ask, what were you struggling with? What did you go to rehab for?
I had a problem with pills.
Okay.
Yep.
Were in any way, shape, or form was the kind of addiction that you dealt with? Did it in any way ever impair your driving? Were you ever high while driving
Oh,
a
no, I didn't
taxi
have a
cab?
license. No, I never. I just now started operating taxi cab before, past 3 or 4 months. It was before he actually got it. Before he had to have it inspected for the city.
Okay.
As soon as he got that, I couldn't drive it anymore. But before that, I didn't even have a license. So I just got my license back after I got out of rehab. So
Okay.
I didn't drive before that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Are you currently employed in any vehicle operational capacity right now?
Yes.
What do you do now?
I work for the same company, Royal Taxi.
Okay. What
John,
do you do? What do you?
I'm sorry, in the letter from her employer, it says that she's currently handling out-of-county and out-of-state pickups.
That was my question. Are you operating outside the city of Knoxville?
Yes.
In that capacity? Are you working full-time doing that?
Yes.
Okay. So if this appeal is denied today, you will have full-time work. It just may not be the work you prefer to do currently. Okay.
Well, it depends. if I have the permit, I can work in the city of Knoxville and go back to the working in the airport, which is a lot better. Like, I make more money. Sometimes the medical runs, you go 2 or 3 days without getting a call. So,
Do you have a current airport taxi permit?
yes,
Okay. Has that been called into question at all?
no,
How often do you renew that?
I don't anymore.
Okay. Well, help me remember the process on that.
The process of what?
You say you don't have to renew airport
Oh, no.
permits?
No, I'm no longer, I do have my permit, but since he got the shuttle inspected, since it had to be inspected by the city of Knoxville, I'm no longer allowed to operate it.
Okay.
But I still have my airport, identification card.
Okay.
So,
But is your permit with the airport authority such that it has to be renewed annually?
no,
Okay.
it's still valid. It's valid for next year.
Okay.
When was that issued?
In April,
Did they perform a background check, or how did they issue that?
I walked in, filled out the application, and paid for it. It took 7 to 10 days to come back, so I'm assuming they did a background check.
And was your Tennessee driver's license ever suspended for any period of time?
Yes.
When was that? How long was it suspended?
It was suspended about 4 or 5 years. I had an unpaid parking ticket for $140.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I should have been more specific. Dealing with any of these charges, was
Oh.
your driver's license impaired to any extent?
No,
Okay.
it was suspended before that for a ticket. Had nothing to do with any on charges.
And you've never been in any way found, liable or guilty for putting people's lives at risk while behind the wheel, including your own?
No, I haven't.
Can you explain to me how much, if this appeal is denied, we were informed of kind of the process of it, but from your end, is there a financial cost to that? And if so, like what is it? Or is it, because I'm assuming to apply for one of these, it costs money. Like if you have to do that again, are we talking $30? Are we talking $1,000? Like, is it a burden to
It's
you?
over 100.
Okay.
That's what I paid last time. I think it was like $69 for the fingerprints, and then I had to go for the airport. It was $40, and then I'd pay my boss $40, so $80. So it's like $140.
And do you find that, kind of like Mr. Lawhorn said, as it stands, if this appeal is denied, you can still work. It just, if you're able to work in the city of Knoxville, do you find you'll be able to, make significantly more, or is it a matter of if you can't work in the city of Knoxville, like you won't be able to make enough to pay your bills? Like what are we talking here? Is it extra spending money, or is it like a matter of like make or break?
My pay has been significantly cut down. Since I haven't been able to drive for the shuttle service. Right now I'm barely making enough to get by, but with permit, it'd make it a lot easier where I can make a living, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. And then a question for probably Mr. Lawhorn. Do we know, and if you don't know this is okay, do we know these kind of 11 stipulations for denial of a permit, or however you phrase it? Do we know when those were written? Like, how old of a law is that? Is this something within the last, this century, or is this something from the 1980s that we're working with?
It's probably predates the 1980s.
So older than me. Okay.
But so let me check real quick, see if I have the. I will tell you this. I've been doing this since the early 1990s, and this ordinance has, I don't know if it's been changed since then.
For clarification, hypothetically, when would the 3-year period be over for the charges for which you were found guilty? So like if you were to wait the full 3 years and just apply outright, when would that happen?
Next year. For the first one, it'd be next year.
2027?
Yeah.
And
And then
then
the other one was in 2025, so.
2028? Okay.
If Ms. White was to receive a driver's permit and in the next calendar year receive another guilty misdemeanor, would that remove her permit upon receiving that misdemeanor, or would that not be noticed until she renewed her permit?
Officer Presley, I think I can speak to this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Generally speaking, is my understanding, and I don't represent the city, but very often that is not picked up until the next application filing. Occasionally, they will get notice of something along those lines one way or another, and they have the ability to revoke a current taxi permit, but that is not done every time, if according to my understanding. Am I stating that accurately?
Yes, you're correct. I wouldn't have any way of knowing unless someone reported it to me, or maybe it was an incident that I saw or was involved, maybe in an arrest or something. So most of the time, it's not going to get caught again until they do their background again that they do every year. There are some occasions, as he's speaking about, that it does get found. It's been referred to my office, and I do find out about it, but those are pretty rare. It usually takes until their background's done.
In my experience, when that rare occasion when that happens, it's generally a pretty serious offense involving felony type conduct and incarceration.
Maybe an officer has run across something and they found that they had that permit with them or something, and they referred it to inspection. Or, it's something like a serious. Yes, it just depends on the situation. I would have to.
Mr. Lawhorn, how long are the permits good for? How long, I mean, when would she go back for a renewal?
Permits are annual? Yeah.
If we were to approve this appeal and she was to receive a permit, would that permit date begin today or when it was originally submitted in April?
That would begin whenever the permit is actually made, so I would have to take the documentation back and be able to process and make the permit. Perhaps update them on the date that I actually make the permit.
John, if we were to grant the appeal and say Ms. White was involved in some kind of situation where she received another drug charge, maybe there was an injury, is the city of Knoxville liable at all in that case?
Qualifiedly, no, because you are an independent body or a quasi-independent body of the city. Certainly, then this body would have no liability. So I'm not saying absolutely not, but as I'm having to riff on this with no notice, I do not think so. There's some qualified immunity to that as well.
Is there any requirement in a situation like this if a taxi cab, and again, I don't know who can answer this, if a taxi cab operator who has charges like this is granted a license to drive a taxi cab, are people who potentially ride in that taxi cab, are they required to be notified? Is there like a thing in like the car that says like was convicted for, again, maybe these are silly questions, but like, is there any, because it's not like there's any violence, any violent charges, but like, is there any way for people to know, is there a record of like, taxi cab drivers, and if they've been charged with things that people can look up? What is the situation with that?
There's no notice, to my knowledge, placed in a cab of criminal charges or revocations or denials of permits. There is a public record. It's the record created by this body.
And I want to ask on the record, hypothetically, if we grant the appeal, because these licenses must be renewed annually, it will likely be denied again next year because the charges will still be present on Ms. White's record, which would then require another appeal, which would then require another hearing. And if that appeal was granted, when it was time to renew again, Ms. White's application may be denied again because there's still going to be at least one misdemeanor up there, which would then require an appeal, which would then require a hearing. I just want to.
Very possible. That's up to the taxi cab
But
inspector.
hypothetically,
Yeah.
if we say yes today, we'll have to continue doing it annually.
I will tell you, I've never had that come up.
Okay.
Now, the reason I've never had that come up, I think predominantly is due to the fact that when these appeals are granted, and I do not say this to prejudge anything, okay? But more often than not, when these appeals are granted, it's usually, the time frame is within the last year of the expiration, before it rolls out or rolls off. So I can't think of one that's come up where there's been multiple years still to go. I don't know, now, under the ordinance, the taxi cab inspector, like the KTA, has discretion to determine, well, I'm not gonna consider that to deny the permit application. They can do that, and I don't want to speak for the taxi cab inspector on would they do that knowing that this has already happened. So they have that authority to do that. I'm not going to predict the future, but your hypothetical could happen. And I would not ask the KPD to render an advisory opinion on that either, so I don't think that's necessarily fair.
Okay, I am going to talk out my thoughts if that's okay. Shocker.
Let's do this. Are there
Okay,
are there any other questions for Ms. White? Ms. White, thank you. If you'll have a seat, there could be some more questions. We'll find out.
Okay, so having had these questions answered and learning some other stuff, I'll start with the kind of maybe simpler thing. From my perspective, due to the kind of mistaken postage, I think that it's super valid that this was given within the appropriate date. Having looked at the forms that we were sent, they're definitely, you could interpret a 7 as a 2. Like I've seen that handwriting, and that one time I'm like, no, that's a 7, and then you scroll down a few lines and I'm like, oh, maybe it's a 2. Postage gets misdelivered all the time. I had a package not come to my apartment a few weeks ago. We know that the government has really effed up the UPS, USPS, so things are not being funded right now. So that first part, I am okay with it being considered within the appropriate amount of time. The rest, based on what I've heard, and let me say first that I think that what KPD did was by the book. I think that was good. They have taken the law as is written, and they've said that these are things that we should deny people for, and that's great. I am always weary of just looking at laws that are older than me, and just because something is a law does not mean it's good. The two things that were kind of red flags for me were just because I grew up around a lot of like meth addicts, and so my family had things stolen, and so theft is a big deal to me. But that's very different than buying something that was stolen. Like that's very, very different. Also, for me, knowing that there has never been any potential harm to anyone in a vehicle while Miss White was dealing with her addiction. I also have a lot of family who have drug addictions in my family. I'm very happy you're sober now. Congratulations. I personally do not see anything that would make me feel bad about allowing this appeal. I think that, again, that on KPD's end, the law was followed by the book, and that's good. But based on what I have seen and what I have heard, I also would like to, point out that, since this law seems to be older than time, we do not know the kind of rationale behind these timelines. Like, what is the difference in someone having a conviction 3 years ago versus a year ago? To me, that's, kind of, I get that you have to have a timeline, but it's kind of silly. And so from my end, having seen everything, I would be okay allowing this appeal.
Any discussion or a motion?
So many thoughts, right? So many thoughts. I also want to make a comment that regardless of our decision, it's not a reflection of Officer Presley's job. I want to say that there was very clear instructions and she followed them, and so thank you for doing that. This is, I think the system is designed that if there's a continued problem, then this next time that a permit is asked for, it won't be given. And for that reason, I'm leaning towards approving this appeal.
I will also add that one of the things that makes me want to grant this appeal is that, like, we are all aware that the economy is garbage right now. And so, as someone who himself is struggling to pay the bills, I always want to be aware of kind of as a member of the working class, what we deal with. And the fact that, I never want to put undue burden on working class folks, especially when, again, I see no evidence of violence. I see no evidence of vehicular impairment. If my fellow commissioners come to different conclusions, I understand. But from my perspective, I believe it would be better to grant the appeal.
I move that we grant the appeal submitted by Amanda White as presented.
We need a second.
I will second.
All right, any further discussion? Absent there being any discussion, we need a vote. All in favor of granting the appeal, raise your hands. That is 5 affirmative votes, 0 against. Congratulations, Ms. White, your appeal is granted. Officer Presley, will you proceed along those lines, please? All right. Ms. White, I have your materials.
All right, I believe we will move now to old business.
We have no old business.
Having no old business, we will move to the public comments section. I will, if you've signed up, I have 2 names. I will call your name. You will come to the podium at the middle. Make sure I see it is turned on. And you will have 5 minutes, and we will keep track of time. So first I have, I believe it's Sharwin. I am sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Please come up to the podium. Again, once you come up, just state for the record your full name and your address, and then we will keep time for you.
My name is Sharwin Snelson. My address is 235 Carter Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37914. Okay, so I am one that depends on the Lyft paratransit for my transportation to and from, and I would like to address some ongoing concerns. The last time I was here was in December and gave you, some information. And since then, I've had monthly meetings with Mr. Thorne, along with at the time, or the director of the paratransit, in January, February, March, and April. We stopped the monthly meetings in May, but I would like to address some major concern about some late trips. Now, when I've addressed these before, I was talked about the on-time performance, the proficiency, about the 96%, 98%, which is fantastic. But let's look at what's happened here in the last 10 days. So we'll start with Wednesday, June 10th, or June 10th, correct. Late to my appointment, because I go to a chiropractor out west. I was late getting dropped off there. And then on the return trip, this is where things got interesting. We go to pick up another person, and we arrive early. So with me on board, we have to wait 25 minutes for someone else to get on board, which we've discussed in the past, that is unacceptable. So I wonder why that would continue to happen. We move on to Tuesday, June 16th. My pickup window in the morning is 8:11 to 8:41. It's supposed to be at my drop-off at 9, but I get picked up at 9:12 and dropped off at 9:25, only to realize the trip was booked incorrectly. Not on my part, but the person who booked it. We keep going. Wednesday, June 17th. Late to the chiropractor once again by almost 20 minutes. And then, of course, the irony this morning. Once again, that same old window, 8:11 to 8:41. Supposed to be at my appointment once again at 9 o'clock. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. So I decided to call at 9:20 to figure out what's going on with this van, only to be told my window is supposed to be 9:52 to 10:22. I said, that is not correct. I know what I booked. I wrote it down, and I repeated it. So I'm told, well, it's 9:52, 10:22, we'll get somebody out there as quickly as possible. Of course, I'm not satisfied with that. I get a call back probably about 2 minutes later, someone telling me, we're gonna send out a roadside supervisor to get you to where you're supposed to be. I said, that's fine, but I still want to know what happened. So I was picked up by the supervisor, got dropped off about 9:52, proceeded with my day. All of this to say one word, accountability. Where is the accountability? Okay, things can happen every now and then, we get it, that's not an issue. But here, in 2 weeks, these 4 different incidents, that's become that pattern that we talked about the last time. We've got to figure this out. There has to be accountability. There has to be accountability in every department, okay? So if drivers are running behind, if tablets have to get pulled because something's not working, we got to figure this out. There's money that's out there. It has to be allocated the correct way to get these things working so people can get to their destinations on time, okay? I'm tired of having the same old discussions and not getting any solutions. But what's really frustrating, and of course, I've been talking about the tone. Well, the tone is going to change when things get better, okay? But on these previous 3 trips that I've mentioned, there was not once, not even one time, anything offered to make up for it. Can we at least take care of this trip for you? Let's find out what's happening. But I'm told there's glitches. Well, what's happening? What's causing all these glitches if I book the trips correctly?
1 minute.
Thank you. So what's happening with these glitches? What can be done to correct these glitches? And of course, the last thing I want to talk about is trip distribution. This is one that is very, very frustrating. When we have trips back and forth, we'll see that maybe the driver is running late or you get picked up late because they have so many trips on that tablet. And I've always wondered if trips are booked by 4 o'clock the day before, because that's the time it cuts off, why can't Ecolane group those trips so that someone can stay later and you can move those trips accordingly so we're not playing, this game first thing in the morning and having to move stuff around. I've been told that they optimize their trips every 30 minutes, maybe every hour. Why can't it be done at 4 o'clock so you can see your trips the very next day so those trips can be moved as necessary as possible?
10 seconds, sir.
All right. So once again, the whole thing to me comes down to accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelson. Next, we have Elliot Lloyd. If you want to come up to the microphone, give us your full name, your address. Same deal. We will give you 5 minutes and we will keep track. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Elliot Lloyd. My address is 708 Morgan Street, 37837. I will start by saying I find it slightly concerning that you are taking my comment before addressing his comment. I'm not sure if that's the typical structure of this, but that does concern me.
This is just public comments right now, so yeah, we don't normally respond.
I did have a question for TPO. I see that they're not present now, so I'll address another concern. Discussing Cumberland Avenue, the issue you were discussing earlier, as somebody who uses public transit and walks as a pedestrian, I don't blame the walkers or the drivers. I blame the design of the road. That is a 5-lane road that pedestrians have to cross, that thousands of pedestrians cross every day. I think the issue would be resolved by reducing that to, I would prefer 2, but even 3 would significantly improve the conditions. If that road was reduced to 2 lanes, there would be room for a bike lane, which would connect 2 roads that people bike down. And due to the conditions of Cumberland, do not feel safe getting from one bikeable road to another. Additionally, if in between the bikers and the car lanes, on-street parking was placed, that would appeal to many car owners that I've heard complaining about parking in the area, as well as protect bikers and pedestrians by having the cars as a physical barrier. Let's see. That's all I would talk about at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess if there's anyone that is not on the sheet that is in the crowd that wants to say anything, speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, if you want to speak your name and full address, you will have 5 minutes to give comments.
My name is Whit Boffman. I live at 1700 Clinch Avenue. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I was interested in Elliot's comments. I live obviously right on Clinch Avenue, very close to what they were talking about. Just driving my personal car down Cumberland, I do often feel that I'm extremely close to the pedestrians. All the students, especially, on game days or when the students are, during their school year, there's hundreds of people walking out there, and my car, it's feet away, and that I do think that their proposed solution would make cars drive slower and be a lot more comfortable of a drive, going down that road where there's lots of people. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. I guess next what we have is to set our next meeting.
I have
Go ahead.
questions, comments.
Yes.
Does this board have the power to make recommendations on road redesign?
Not within the purview of the KTA to take any official action. You can certainly discuss any matters dealing with transportation and make resolutions to present to any body you feel that should be presented to.
And then, I always ask this question. Sounds like a lot of your concerns are related to cat lift. What do we do with that?
Not much you can do. Your routes and fares so fixed route is really your concern. I can say that staff is always ready to meet with anyone who brings a concern about the lift to speak with them after the meetings.
Yeah, I'll just add, we're in constant communication with Mr. Snelson, and we'll continue to work through those concerns that he has directly and hopefully get those resolved.
I'd like to just encourage our second and third speakers to possibly reach out to the TPO. That may be a good vehicle for some of your concerns and thoughts and recommendations. I mean, certainly as a transportation nut, I am enthusiastic about your comments, but as our attorney is saying, we really just don't have any authority over it. So
Also city commissioners.
and city commissioners. Thank you, Rick.
Well, let me add, ultimately, any concerns addressing transportation within the city of Knoxville, city council and the city administration, if it's not within our jurisdiction, they're very receptive to concerns about lift, roads, sidewalks, bike lanes, disability accommodations. City administration is excellent at hearing people and working with people along those lines.
And I'm thankful for hearing you say that out loud, because I know even as a transportation commissioner, I often feel disempowered and helpless when I hear concerns that are external or beyond our purview. So just want to make sure those who spoke today heard that there are outlets, even if we aren't the ones that as a body can do anything, there appears to be a place or a source to get some of your very valid concerns addressed.
And I'll add to that, since our friend Doug was gone, that the city is wrapping up kind of the first phase of this What's Next Knoxville. So, if you clearly you do, because you're here, if you care about transportation, if you care about, pedestrian safety, if you care about having a city that's like walkable, mixed use, more housing, all of those things, go to their website, fill out the survey, because that's where our voices collectively are going to be heard on things like this. So if we, as the KTA, can't necessarily make Cumberland, more bike friendly and more pedestrian friendly, we collectively as citizens can do that, and that's the avenue. So, I want to push people to fill out that survey.
And just, in my notes, the web address is what'snextknoxville.com. So definitely check that out. There's there's an opportunity to give feedback there.
No, I just wanted to second. I was going to say I wanted to second what Ebony said, but also Dustin said and also what Beth said. So just second you all, that's all. Not that there's a vote, I just support you all very much.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone who's come here today, my fellow commissioners and those in the crowd. We will set our next meeting for July 23rd, day before my birthday. I expect cake. And we will see you all then. Thanks for coming. Have a good one.